Okay, so good afternoon, ma'am, and good afternoon, everyone. We are from Group 5. In this time, we would like to present about international management, and here are the group members: Ahmad Adiat, Akila Viola, Amartia, Cecilia, Farmin, Gigis Gisel, Mutiara, and Mira Tushala. And here are the topics that we will discuss about. The first is management and globalization. The second is global business. The third is cultures and global diversity. And the last is global management learning. So, management and globalization. In a global economy, resource, markets, and competition are found on a worldwide scope. Globalization is the process of growing interdependence among the components of the global economy. And next is global management. Global management involves managing operation in more than one country. In a global management, there are global managers. Global managers is a manager who inform about international developments, transnational in outlook, competent in working with people from other cultures, and always aware of regional developments in one changing world. And the next is why companies go global. An international business conduct commercial transaction of goods and services across national boundaries. There are reasons to conduct international business include profits, labor, customers, suppliers, capital, and risk. The next is there are reasons businesses go international. So the first is profits, global operation offer profit potential. The second is customers, global operation offer new markets to sell products. The third is capital, global operation offer access to financial resources. And the fourth is suppliers, global operation offer access to needed raw materials. And the next is labor. Global operation offer lower labor cost. And the last is risk. Global operation spread assets among multiple countries. And the next is how companies go global. So, a common first step into international business is global sourcing, which is the process of purchasing materials, manufacturing components, or businesses service from around the world. And the second is exporting and importing. So, exporting is a form of international business that involves selling locally made products in foreign markets. And importing is a form of international business that involves buying foreign made products and selling them into domestic markets. And the last is licensing and franchising. So, licensing agreements when another firms pay fee rights to make or sell another company's products in a specific region. And the last is franchising. So, franchising involves buying the rights to use another name and operation methods in the home country. And the next will be continued by Akila Viola.
Okay, joint venture. A joint venture is a business arrangement in which two or more parties agree to pool their resource for the purpose of accomplishing a specific task. This task can be a new project or any other business activity. They are a partnership in the colloquial sense of the word, but can take on any legal structure. In a joint venture, each of the participants is responsible for profits, losses, and costs associated with it. However, the venture is its own entity, separate from the participants' other business interests. The next one is strategic alliance. Strategic alliance is an arrangement between two companies to undertake a mutual beneficial project while each retains its independence. The agreement is less complex and less binding than a joint venture, in which two businesses pool resources to create a separate business entity. A strategic alliance, sorry, okay, a strategic alliance could help a company develop a more effective process and allow the two organizations individuals, or other entities to work toward common or correlating goals. And the last one is foreign subsidiary. One way around some of the risk and problem associated with joint venture and strategic alliance is full ownership of the foreign operation itself. A foreign subsidiary is a company operating overseas that is part of larger corporation with headquarters in another country, often known as a parent company or a holding company. Companies primarily open foreign subsidiaries to establish a corporate foothold in a specific overseas economy, primarily to boost revenue, generate tax benefit, and diversify company assets to better manage risk. Next slide, please. Global business environment. The global business environment is the environment in different yes, okay, thank you. The global business environment is the environment in different countries with unfamiliar factors from domestic environment which affect firms' decision on resource use and capability. The first one, we're going to talk about legal and political system. Some of the biggest risk in international business comes from difference in legal and political system. Global firms are expected to abide by local laws, some of which may be unfamiliar. And the more home country and host country laws differ, the harder it is for international business to adapt to local ways. Uh, and then Common legal problems faced by international business involve incorporation practices and business ownership, negotiation and implementation of contracts with foreign parties, handling of foreign exchange and intellectual properties right, patents, trademarks, and copyright. And then we're going also talk about political risk. It is the potential loss in value of investment in or managerial control over a foreign asset because of instability and political change in host country. Although such things can be prevented, they can be anticipated. Most global firms use planning technique called political risk analysis to forecast the the probability of disruptive events that can threaten the security of a foreign investment. Next slide, please. Okay. Trade agreement and trade barriers. Trade agreement and a contractual arrangement between states concerning their trade relationship. Trade agreement may be bilateral or multilateral, that is between two states or more than two states. Trade agreements are one way to reduce this barrier, thereby opening all parties to benefit of increased trade. A barrier to trade is a government imposed restraint on the flow of international goods or services. Barriers to trade are often called protection because their stated purpose is to shield or advance particular industries or segment of an economy. From an economic perspective, though the cost to the economy of reducing its opportunity to trade almost always outweigh the benefit enjoyed by those who are protected. And the most common barrier to trade is tariff, a tax on import. The purpose of a tariff is generally to protect domestic production and jobs, though economists say other domestic sectors and customer ultimately pay for tariffs. And a non-tariff barrier is a way to restrict trade using trade barrier in a form other than a tariff. Non-tariff barrier include quotas, embargo, sanction, uh, etc. As a part of their political or economic strategy, some countries frequently use non-tariff barrier to restrict the amount of trade they conduct with other countries. And the last is protectionism. is a call for tariff and favorable treatment to protect domestic firms from foreign competition. It refers to government policies that restrict international trade to help domestic industries. The protectionist policies are usually implemented with the goal to improve economic activity within a domestic economy, but can also be implemented for safety and quality concern. Next slide, please. Thank you.
As the definition of global business itself is a global organization that develops, improves, and operates enterprise-wide process to deliver measurable and specific business outcomes. Global business divided into two types. It is a global corporation and transnational corporation. Global corporation or MNC conduct commercial transaction across national boundaries. It is business firm with extensive international operation in many foreign countries. Or the transnational corporation is a global corporation or many that do business around the world without being identified with one national home. Next slide, please. The cons of global business. In opening up to global business, host country can feel what is called a globalization gap, which can be concern for social and personal. The benefits of host country relationship are they will share opportunity with potential for growth, income, learning, and development.
Okay, so host country have issues in opening a country to multinational corporations. There are potential issues for conflict for the home country, such as global business tend to have excessive profits and does not go well with the local economy. Therefore, it dominates the local economy, and then sometimes they interfere with local governments, fail to respect local custom and laws, which create problems and create problems of fairness between local firms and international firms. And they usually they can fail to help domestic firms develop because it is their competition, and sometimes they hire the most talented personnel from domestic firms in the against with domestic firms. And the last is failing to transfer their advanced technology to the host country. And other than that, there are multinational issues for the host countries too. Multinationals have the potential to have their own issues like profit limitations, overpriced resources, exploitative rules and regulations, foreign exchange and restrictions, and failure to uphold contracts. Uh, what I like to add more is political risk too for the multinational companies. So the picture above is companies that go bankrupt in Indonesia, multinational companies that go bankrupt, and the below is the ones who succeed. So ethics challenges of global business. Three of these pictures represents the points between this corruption, child labors, and conflict minerals. So global business that are sometimes involved in corruption, illegal practice, or to further their business interests. Corruption remains a illegal practice in developing country, but it still remains very much alive. The To prevent this, the U.S. have Foreign Corrupt Practice Act that makes it illegal for U.S. firms and officials to engage in bribing and corrupt activities overseas. So the next is child labor and sweatshops. Because developing country is low cost and labor, there are major ethics issues that fail. follow low-cost manufacturing countries. They usually abuse human rights and abuse many things. And the last one is conflict minerals. This is minerals who are financing war, like uh, many of them uh, pertambangan, perusahaan pertambangan, mining companies. The Dodd-Frank Act requires companies to certify of conflict-free resources.
Okay, so the next one we will discuss about cultures and global diversity. So in this part, we will mainly discuss about what is culture and how does it influence global management. So culture is the shared set of beliefs, values, and patterns of behavior common to a group of people. Since each country or even area has different culture from one to another, some people might experience culture shock when they enter a place or environment. So culture shock itself is the confusion and discomfort a person experiences when in an unfamiliar culture. Next. So cultural intelligence, or often called by cultural quotient, is the ability to adapt, adjust, and work well across cultures. People with cultural intelligence are flexible in dealing with cultural differences and willing to learn from what is unfamiliar. Someone with high cultural intelligence views cultural differences as an opportunity to learn, not as a threat. Next, please. So we can do a quick test of cultural quotient by asking and answering these four following questions. The first one is, am I aware of the cultural knowledge I use in cross-cultural situations? The second one is, do I know about the cultural values, practices, and religious beliefs of other cultures? The next one is, do I enjoy interacting with people from diverse cultures? And the last one is, do I change my behavior when a cross-cultural situation requires it? Next, please. Okay, the next one is silent language of culture. So people can develop their skills and competencies to listen, observe, and learn by having better understanding in silent languages of culture. Edward T. Hall, an anthropologist, believes that these silent languages are found in culture's approach to context, time, and space. Next. So now we will discuss first about context. So in context, it is divided by two. The first one is low context culture, and the second one is high context culture. So low context culture, it takes place via spoken or written word in mass communication. So the low context culture is common in the United States, Canada, and Germany. And the second one is high context culture. It is rely on nonverbal and situational cues as well as on spoken or written words in communication. Sometimes the real message must be interpreted from the situation, body language, physical setting, and even past relationship among the people involved. Next. And now we will discuss about time. It is also divided into two. The first one is monochronic culture and the second one is polychronic culture. So in monochronic culture, people tend to do one thing at a time. As an example, it is really common in United States to schedule meetings with specific people and focus on specific agenda for an allotted period of time. But in contrast, in polychronic culture, people tend to be more flexible and use their time to accomplish many different things at once. So as an example, people in polychronic cultures, they often do greet and deal with a continuous term of people at a time. Next. And the last one is about space. So one of the silent languages of culture is the use of space, which Hall already describes in terms of proxemics, study of how people use space to communicate. As an example, Americans tend to like bigger space for their offices, houses, yards, and even cars. They usually get uncomfortable in tight spaces. In contrast, in Japan, you can find that space is precious. They organize spaces carefully for most efficient use. There, privacy is highly valued and protected.
The next topic is values and national culture. The first one is masculinity and femininity. Masculinity femininity is the degree to which a society values assertiveness and materialism, masculinity versus feelings, relationship, and quality of life. The Wall Assertiveness and Street Journal has pointed out that in Japan, professional women face a set of socially complex issues from overt sexism to deep-seated attitude about the division of labor. Next, please. The second one is time orientation. Time orientation is the degree to which a society emphasizes short-term versus long-term goals, time orientation, and gratification. Many Asian cultures are quite the opposite, displaying Confucian values of persistence, thrift, patience, and a willingness to work for long-term success.
Tight and loose cultures. These are representative of two very different cultural settings. In a tight culture, such as ones found in Korea, Japan, or Malaysia, social norms are strong and very clear. Members are expected to know the prevailing norms and let them guide their behavior. They also has a rigid social norms expects members to conform with them. Unlike the loose culture, such as ones found in Australia, Brazil, or Hungary, social norms are relaxed and less clear-cut. Members may be more or less concerned with them, and conformity varies a good deal. Deviations from norms tend to be tolerated unless they take the form of criminal behavior to test the extremes of morality. Uh, a mix of cultural tightness and looseness on a cross-cultural team may result in soft or unstated conflict and missed performance opportunities. Members from tight cultures may be slow to volunteer, criticize, show emotion, or seek praise. They may look toward formal authority for direction while trying to always be on time and prepared. Members from loose cultures may be quick to voice opinions, criticize others, display emotions, and look for recognition. They may not show much respect for authority, and punctuality may be inconsistent.
Okay, so next we are going to talk about global management learning. How can we benefit from global management learning? Next slide, please. So the first question is, are management theories universal? The world is a complex place, and management scholars understand and agree that there is lots left to understand and learn about global management. The main picture is Gert Hofstede, like in the previous material. And from the opinion of Gert Hofstede, there is two conclusions. The first one is many management theories are really ethnocentric because they come from a single cultural context, often North America. And the second one is the American cultural value of individualism is quite prominent in management theories on individual performance, reward, and job design. So, in conclusion, are management theories universal? Well, it kind of depends because most, like in the second one, most management theories came from the American culture value, but not all countries use the management theories, such as Sweden, because they are more collectivism. So there's two arguments. It could be yes, or it could be also no. Next slide, please. Next is the intercultural competencies. Although management theories are not always universal intercultural competencies are. There are three pillars of intercultural competency. The first one is the perception management, which is inquisitive and curious. That means managers should be inquisitive and curious. The second one is self-management. That means managers should be have a strong sense of personal identity. And the third one is relationship management, where managers need to have an interest in others. Next slide, please. So the next is the global learning goals. So the intent of comparative management study is to engage in critical thinking about the ways managers around the world do things and about how they might do them better. As we try to engage in global management learning, it is important to hesitate before accepting any ideas or practice, as a universal prescription for action and cultural difference always have to be considered. Next slide, please.
Okay, so as a case study, to illustrate our presentation, we're going to focus on the case of Africa as a global management organization. So with a growing young population coupled with a rapid urbanization and fast-growing consumer expenditure, Africa offers attractive opportunities for entities wishing to expand into new frontiers markets. Retailing contribution to GDP across the region continue to increase, and indicating that the region is consumption-driven. So according to Euromonitor International, retail sales in the region amounted to over 500 billion in 2019. So a key retailing market include South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, and Algeria. So to develop a good and strategic market entry approach into the region, one needs to understand the diversity and dynamics that drive retailing. In addition, understanding how and where one's product is consumed and purchased in the region is necessary for developing a route to market strategy. Factor that helps global business open branch in Africa. The plus are the region's rising middle class is contributing to the modernization of retailing, offering consumer market opportunities. Although internet retailing in the region is still at its infancy by global standard, by ongoing expansion and emergence of flexible payment method in the region is boosting internet retail sales. The people understand that modern retailers outlets offer convenience, flexible trading times, accessibility, and lower price products. Traditional channels such as Dukas in Kenya and Spalza shops in South Africa have been molded together to the buying pattern, purchasing power, and project preference of consumer. Factor that hinders global business open branch in Africa. So there is informal retailing is important and not going away anytime soon. A large proportion of retailing still take place in open air markets, street vendors, and tabletop merchant. Informal retailing forms the backbone of unofficial national trading systems in many countries. There are significant variation in the logistic cost and lead times required to access different African markets. The region is characterized by a multitude of retail channels, distribution networks, supply chains, marketing strategies, and different regulatory administration and underdeveloped infrastructure also. And complex distribution channel make it challenging for companies and projects to reach consumer. So that was the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening to us. And don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any. Thank you.